The first time she threatened to kill me, half the observation deck fell silent. The second time the entire station did. And the third time, when she screamed it so loudly that the translators overloaded, I smiled, reached out and touched her again. That was the moment the galaxy decided humanity was insane. Beginning, the prisoner who would not kneel. They called her HFY, a warlord-princess of the Threxian Dominion. 7 feet tall, exoskeletal armor grown from her own body, 4 burning eyes arranged like a predator's crown, and claws that could carve through reinforced titanium. She had led the invasion of 12 frontier worlds. She had personally executed 2 planetary governors. She had never been captured. Hill Earth. The UNS Horizon's wake drifted in low orbit above Mars, its hull still scorched from the battle. Inside, the station buzzed with restrained tension. Marines lined the corridors. Scientists whispered behind reinforced glass. Diplomats argued in muted fury. And in the center of it all stood HFY, restrained by gravitic binders, her limbs locked in place by shimmering blue fields. She did not kneel. She did not bow. He stared at us like we were insects that had learned a dangerous trick. I was not a soldier. I was not a diplomat. I was Dr. Elias Rowan, xenoneurologist, specialist in cross-species cognition and, according to half the galaxy, a man who had no survival instinct. The Dominion believed touch was domination. Among the Threxians, to touch without permission was a declaration of ownership, or a challenge to the death. Everyone knew this. Everyone except humanity. The first session was meant to be observation only. I stepped forward anyway. Her eyes flared. "Do not approach, soft skin." Her voice boomed through the translator, layered with subsonic threat signals. "I am not prey." I stopped 3 feet away. "I know," I said calmly. "You're a leader. A strategist. And terrified." The word hit her harder than any weapon. Her mandibles snapped open in fury. "You know nothing of fear." I raised my hand. Every human in the room froze. Her pupils dilated. "If you touch me again, you're dead," she roared. I smiled and placed my hand gently on the armored ridge of her forearm. The alarm screamed. She screamed louder. But she did not kill me. The madness of human contact. The Dominion representatives demanded my execution. The station commander demanded my resignation. The alien observers demanded explanations that made sense. I gave none. Instead, I requested continued access. "Human," HFY snarled during our second session, her restraints humming as she strained against them. "Your species is defective. You provoke death for no gain." "Not for no gain," I replied. "For understanding." He laughed. A harsh clicking sound. Understanding comes from submission or annihilation. Not for us. I reached out again. She stiffened instantly, every muscle locking as my fingers brushed the edge of her carapace. "You mock the right of claim," she shouted. "You declare challenge without strength." "No," I said softly. "I declare connection." Her breathing stuttered. That was when the sensors picked it up. Her neural activity spiked, not in aggression but confusion. Stress responses tangled with something else, something unfamiliar. Threxians had never experienced non-hostile touch. Not as children. Not as allies. Not even as mates. Touch was violence or ownership. Nothing more. Till now. Session I touched her again. A hand on the arm. Fingers brushing her shoulder ridge. Once carefully the side of her jaw. Every time she threatened me. Every time she failed to act. And every time her hostility weakened by a fraction. The galaxy watched in horror as I violated a cultural taboo older than their civilization. Humanity watched in silence. "Why hasn't she killed you?" the station commander asked me after the 5th session. I didn't hesitate. "Because she doesn't want to," I said. The truth was more complicated. Her species' neurobiology linked touch directly to dominance hierarchies. But human touch carried no such signals. No pheromonal commands. No submission markers. To HFY, my contact was meaningless. And therefore, revolutionary. On the seventh day she spoke quietly for the first time. When I was spawned, she said, eyes unfocused, my clutchmates were separated immediately. Weakness breeds rebellion. I rested my hand on her arm. She didn't threaten me. Sounds lonely, I said. Her mandibles trembled. Loneliness is irrelevant. Is it? She didn't answer. Instead, she asked a question that shook the Dominion observers to their cores. Why do you continue, human? I met her gaze. Because no one ever taught you what safety feels like. The breaking of an empire. The Dominion panicked. HFY was not just a prisoner. She was a symbol. And symbols were not supposed to soften. Reports leaked. Neural instability, behavioral shifts, decreased aggression thresholds. The Threxian High Command accused humanity of psychological warfare. They were right. Just not the kind they imagined. On the 10th day they issued an ultimatum. Return HFY. Or face annihilation. The Earth Council debated for 12 hours. I spent those 12 hours sitting across from her, my hand resting on the gravitic field inches from her skin. They will come, she said flatly. I know. They will burn your worlds. Maybe. Her eyes narrowed. You are not afraid. I am, I admitted. But fear doesn't decide what's right. Silence stretched between us. Then slowly, impossibly, she leaned forward. The field hummed as her forehead pressed gently against my palm. Every sensor on the station went wild. Threxian observers collapsed in shock. That was not just touch. That was submission. And she was offering it freely. If you touch me again, she whispered, voice unsteady, you may unmake everything I am. I smiled sadly. And touched her again. Ending what humanity gave the galaxy. When the Dominion fleet arrived, they expected war. They found a transmission. HFY's face filled every channel. I am HFY of the Threxian Dominion, she declared. And I have learned a truth our empire has buried for millennia. Behind her stood humans. Unarmed. Unafraid. Touching her shoulders. We believed strength was born from isolation. We were wrong. The High Command screamed orders. She silenced them. These beings showed me power without domination. Connection without conquest. She lifted her claws. And laid them gently over human hands. The Dominion will stand down. Or I will tear it apart myself. The war never came. Over the following months, Threxian prisons emptied. Clutch separation rituals ended. Touch, careful, hesitant, awkward, became a subject of scientific study across the galaxy. Humanity earned a new reputation. Not conquerors. Not saviors. But something far more terrifying. The species that could touch a monster and teach it how to feel safe. Years later, I visited HFY on her homeworld. She no longer wore living armor. She wore simple robes. When she saw me, she smiled, a human gesture she practiced endlessly. If you touch me again, she said softly, eyes bright, I will not kill you. I laughed and took her hand. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would we.